Mayor Brown?
Yes, please.
So that'll be carried 19 votes to 1 with 1 abstention.
Bingo. Oh, I'm glad we stopped for lunch before we got to that. I'd like you to move on to item 13, which is response to the Ombudsman's open workshops. I'm all for transparency and getting these out in the open. For the public watching, we haven't had a workshop on workshops yet, but we might do, who knows. So you're seeing Andrew here talking to us for the first time. Andrew there, he's given got a tie on today, suit for that. We do a lot of workshops. Our long-term plan had over 120 hours of them, for example. Come on, Andrew. I think before I finish, I just want to reinforce that I think we go into secrecy far too much, which is not exactly what's the point of this, but I just want to say, can we go into secrecy when there's something that's so secret someone would be tempted to leak it? Because most of the secrets have been blooming not even interesting.
So it's been moved and seconded.
Moved and by Walker and seconded by Deputy Mayor Simpson. Thank you very much that we agreed the default setting, albeit they're open, but we still had the opportunity to be secret, but only if it's really, really secret. Okay, so over to you there, Andrew. Come on.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good afternoon, councillors. This paper is just responding to the Ombudsman's report. Our governing body governance practices are aligned with the Ombudsman's recommendations. However, our current approach to workshops is that they are closed by default. The Ombudsman recommends that best practice is for those workshops to be open by default. So the proposal here is to open up governing body workshops by default, and it's another piece of the ongoing work programme to increase transparency for council business. It supports the mayor's and the governing body's desire to reduce the number of items and meetings and the number of workshops by ensuring that the work that is put in front of the governing body has purpose and takes the discussion forward. And that really is it in a nutshell. Changing the default setting from closed to open. The discretion will still be with the chairperson to extend the workshop to open completely to the public. There are a number of different options of opening. Our recommendation is for the workshops to be recorded and put up onto the web. It's the most effective and cheapest approach in the first instance.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? At the start of our 120 hours of punishment for the LTP, the first couple of them were kind of not real called workshops, they were called sort of something or other sessions, advantage sessions or managed sessions or facilitated sessions with Toby. We're not considering those to be open, or are we considering those to? They weren't quite workshops to me, they were actually where we actually had a discussion, which would be nice if we could still do those. And then once we got into the workshops, I'm in favour of them being open, but those facilitated sessions, I think most people found them quite useful. I could be wildly wrong.
That will be, this is just looking at workshops. Purely
so a facilitated session is still a facilitated session.
Is a facilitated session.
Right, thank you for that. Are there any additional questions for what is a reasonably plain thing, but then again I've had that wrong several times today. Hey? All right. Step aside there, and I'm going to offer to have a vote on this one there. All those in favour of this, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary? Carried. Well, there you are. That's it.
Can we say unanimous?
Good job, Andrew.
No, don't even say that word. Right, now to the bit that some of us have stayed up all day for. We've got 4 items on the result of our 120 hours of work, the LTP. And the first of these, item 14, It's about the revenue and financing policy, and I'm going to move this. Councillor Sayers, will you second this, Councillor Sayers? Okay. Now, thank you for everybody. We've got to go through these issues. These final items in the open agenda relate to the long-term plan. They are largely procedural and are giving effect to the decisions we made as a committee last month. I'd like to acknowledge the councillors, local board members, Te Kura, advisory panels and the members of the public who all submitted and contributed in their thousands. We've got a plan we can really be proud of. I expect we move through this with that in mind, and if any of you want to raise amendments to these, provided them in writing, Standard Order 1.53, it is likely that if these were to happen, we would need staff advice to understand the consequences or understand where some things potentially aren't legally open to us. Staff have worked hard to produce the necessary documents and policies. This step is an important one that gives certainty to our organisation as well as our communities out there. First up, Andrew Duncan. I have moved this and has been seconded by Councillor Sayers. And have we got some of your exciting rhetoric to bring us about here about the long-term differential strategy, which is the first item?
Certainly.
The item within the revenue financing policy. Thank you, Andrew.
Revenue and financing policy sets out how the council will fund its activities. Some changes are required to be made to the policy to reflect the decisions you made on the 16th of May. We're required to have our revenue and financing policy adopted as part of the long-term plan. It's the first of the items on the agenda for this today. Aaron, the key change to the document?
So the key change is to reflect the decision that the council made to discontinue its strategy of reducing the share of rates charged by business. So that's the long-term differential strategy. A couple of other minor amendments include removing references to the accommodation provider targeted rate and reflecting the change to how waste services are funded.
There's no questions. It's been moved. All those in favour of this, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Thank you very much for that. You've kept up your usual exciting whiz-bang approach there. Thank you very much. Item 15. I'm just going to turn the page to get to it. This is to formally adopt the LTP. Again, I'm moving this. As Councillor Sayers, will you second this, please? So let's get on with things. Thank you, Tamsin and your team, for the excellent work here. Tamsin will give us a brief of what we've already decided to date, how it's been audited in a complex and lengthy process, along with all the other work that's gone in. The auditors are also online in order to revoke a previous decision, we'd need a motion signed by 1/3 of the councillors. But I don't think we're going to do that. But basically, hopefully not. Just bring us up to date with what you've had to do since we voted to approve the LTP and what has sprung from that in your long work assembling the documentation and dealing with the auditors. Okay, now you'll note that the move is to include key audit changes tabled at the meeting and including minor changes requested by the auditors. So I think the best thing for you is to explain what happened during all this period of time. Okay, thank you very much for that. Off you go, Tamsin.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. In mihi o Matariki, te tau hou te Māori. So this paper is largely a procedural one, and it is the final step in this process for the long-term plan for the period of 2024 to 2034. So in May, this committee made final decisions, as the Mayor mentioned, relating to the various components of the long-term plan. These decisions included the level of rates increases and other rating policy matters, levels of investment across the group for capital and operating spend, fairer funding of local boards, and the establishment of the Auckland Future Fund. So since then, staff have been working to reflect those decisions in these final documents and to include the necessary content to meet our statutory obligations. Draft documents were provided to you last week to support a drop-in session on the content. This was an opportunity for elected members to ask clarifying questions and provide staff your feedback. Draft policy relating to the Auckland Future Fund was also distributed to support a workshop on the same day. During the session, we received feedback on the draft policies. A memo was circulated late last week outlining our response to that feedback and the changes that were made to policy to reflect your requests that we received during that session. The two related policies that are included in the long-term plan for adoption today have been updated as outlined in that memo, and those are the Auckland Future Fund policy and the Auckland Future Fund distribution policy. So during this period since decision-making, we have worked to support Audit New Zealand, who, on behalf of the Office of the Auditor-General, have audited the final long-term plan documents. On Monday this week, the Audit and Risk Committee met and received an update from staff on the effectiveness of controls and risk management as it relates to the preparation of final documents. At the same meeting, the Audit and Risk Committee received an update from our auditors, and as a result, the committee resolved the following: to receive the report on the key controls and risks relating to the development of the long-term plan, to agree to advise the governing body that effective internal control and risk management processes have been followed during the preparation of the long-term plan, and to agree to advise the governing body that there are no significant outstanding audit issues, noting the 4 matters of emphasis relating to the future uncertainty included in the draft audit report relating to the Auckland Future Fund, government funding for storm recovery and resilience, City Rail Link, and the impact of the Local Government Water Services Preliminary Arrangements Bill. Yesterday, we also distributed the draft unmodified audit opinion to you, which, subject to today's decision-making, will be included in the final documents. I note that our auditors are here online, here in the room and online, and I will ask them to briefly speak to the audit opinion after my introduction. Similarly, we have supported our Legal Services Department as they conducted a review of the documents to confirm that they are legally compliant. Sign-off confirming legal compliance of these documents was provided to our Chief Executive last Friday. Through both the audit and legal reviews, we have made changes throughout the documents to reflect the feedback that we have received. So very briefly, the contents that are tabled today are Volume 1, which provides a summary of the plan, key deliverables, prospective financial statements, highlights and priorities of the plan itself. Volume 2 includes Council's strategies, policies and detailed plans by group of activity. And Volume 3 contains our local board agreements for 24-25 and the fairer funding allocations. So the recommendations of this report ask you to adopt the LTP documents along with the tabled changes that we have just distributed to you today that we received from our auditors last night regarding performance measure changes and a change to the parent prospective statement. The report also asks you to agree to delegate authority to the Mayor and to our Chief Financial Officer to make any final editorial changes, again including minor requests that we receive from our auditors. Ka mahuta a matariki e te pai, ka mahuta o tātou, tu manako ki te tau. I will now hand over to Ethel Graham, Director at Audit New Zealand, to speak to the audit opinion, and note that we have Andrew McConnell, Deputy Controller and Auditor General online. Kia ora.
Thanks, Tam.
Here, you're welcome to say something, Auditor General. Sort of glaring at us, you can probably tell us that we have met the requirements.
Oh, he's frozen. I'm happy to talk, and Andrew's going to support if there's questions. On the audit report. Yep. So kia ora, councillors.
Go, Ethel.
Yeah. So so I've received a representation letter. That was the last piece of the puzzle today, and we've had some discussions with management over the last 24 hours, just on a few other things which we've agreed to be changed. So that plus the LTP that you have, I'm happy to say we've got an unqualified audit report that we've made available to management to include into the LTP later on in the meeting. So the report includes a couple of key legs. One is about the reasonableness of the LTP for long-term integrated decision-making. So this is, I guess, a new era in terms of your decision-making and planning, which is important. The other important part, the second leg, is around it's an important basis going forward for accountability to your community. So particularly in terms of the financial forecast, but also in relation to the performance framework, which is in volume 2. The audit report does note, just for the members' interests, that we didn't audit the CD. You'll be well aware of that, but we have reminded readers of that. And we've also included in the audit report, doesn't change our opinion, our unqualified opinion at all, but we have included 4 things within our audit report that alert readers to particular pieces of information in the assumptions and other places within the LTP that we feel are particularly important for readers to be aware of. And given this is a forecasting document, you do tend to have assumptions that have a significant impact on the forecast, and also can be particularly uncertain. So that's the basis on which we've drawn readers' attention to these disclosures. One is around the Auckland Future Fund. The disclosures talk about the share price that could be realised, as well as the returns that might be gained through that fund as being particularly significant and uncertain. The other one is around the storm recovery, which has the disclosures talk about the costs, and the funding of those costs are uncertain. The other one is around the City Rail Link project. Council has had to make some very important assumptions to be able to pull the LTP together around the timing of the project, the cost of operation, depreciation of assets, and asset allocation is also an important assumption. And the last one we've drawn readers' attention to is the fact that there is a water services bill going through Parliament at the moment. Council's assumed that the bill, as it's currently drafted, will be passed without significant changes. The disclosures also talk about the impact of that bill on the financials of the group, and in particular water care. For example, on page 77, there's an assumption about credit margins. So those are really important assumptions we feel were important for readers. And last but not least, for me, I just want to thank management for working with us. It's not an easy process for either of us, but an important one. And yeah, I think it's good that we've got there, but I'll pause there. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we are ready for any questions. Kia ora.
Just hold your horses, girls and boys. We have to move an extension of time. Thank you. And anyone else? Deputy Mayor, all those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? No. Carried, though, all the same. Right. Questions, please, ladies and gentlemen. Do you have anything, Andrew, to add to that? Just confirming that what Athol said is correct, that you've given us a clean bill of health, virtually.
Can't hear you.
I think you're on mute, Andrew.
Mate. Press your mic on. Oh, well. That's the good part about Wellington, I can't hear you.
Does he know we can't hear him? Yeah, he does.
Righto. We'll do them in semaphore, all right?
No, that's okay. It now works. Look, no comments from me. Yeah, I think you were thinking Christmas had come, Mr. Mayor. You couldn't hear me. No further comments. I think Apple's covered things off pretty well. So no, just sitting here if there's anything further that comes up, but nothing further to add at present.
Thank you, Andrew. Right, are there any questions from the floor about this? Very much what we expect. A couple of the minor things, just a fee justification from the Auditor General. On that basis, I will move. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you much, auditors, for the work that you've done.
And thanks to the Audit and Risk Committee.
Well done, team.
Thanks to you and your team, Andrew. Much appreciated.
All part
Down
of
to 16 now.
well worded.
Stay there, Andrew, because I've got to check the numbers on 16. Rightio,
Chair,
again.
can we just have a look at questions online?
Oh, Councillor Filipina.
Yes, Councillor Filipina.
Yeah, well, there was Councillor Foley had a question earlier, and before you close the item, and my particular question is for Andrew. How do you want to deal with the item we've just that you've just put through?
Sorry, which item are you referring to?
So, Andrew, what had happened was there were some questions online. It wasn't picked up, and as a result, the item's been passed. I had a question specifically to you, but I just addressing the chair to see how he wants to deal with that. There was a question, however, earlier to my one from Councillor Foley. So, Chair, I just wanted to sort of get your guidance in regards to the two questions that were online.
You can ask them, it's fine.
Councillor Foley, if you want to go first and then I'll put it through. I mean, I thought it would be recommitted, but obviously it won't be.
Yeah, kia ora. Sorry, Chair. I did put it in the comments there that I wanted to ask a question, but I was just going to ask Ethel and the team, because I'm on the Audit and Risk Committee, so I've had the benefit of hearing from them about this before and understanding in more detail around the risks that they called significant and uncertain around the Auckland Future Fund. But I wondered if Ethel and Andrew could explain a little bit more detail what those risks were that they were wanting to highlight for the benefit of the other councillors as well as the public who might be listening. The risks and based on the assumptions that they considered significant and uncertain. Kia ora.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just respond to that. So what we just drew attention to in an emphasis of matter paragraph in the audit report was that those two issues. The first was to do with the value of the shares that were transferred to the fund, and we just highlighted that due to market movements, the value of those shares would only be known once those shares are transferred, and significant variances in the value of the shares could actually affect the initial size of the actual regional wealth fund. So it was just drawing readers' attention to that. The second point we highlighted was, again, just making sure that readers were aware that the assumption is that the fund will generate an average return of 7.24% per annum over the long term. And there is, as the council is well aware and is disclosed in its report, there is a high level of uncertainty over the returns, and if they do vary, then that obviously will impact on the income going forward. So they weren't matters which would impact, as Ethel has correctly said, they're not things that impact on the nature of the opinion. The opinion's still unmodified, it's unqualified, but it's really to make sure that readers were well aware that there are some assumptions in here which are subject or potentially subject to movement.
Okay, thanks for just saying
you.
that you were just bringing it to the reader's attention. You weren't questioning the value. Righto, that's okay. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Filipaina, have you got?
Yeah, I have. Thank you, Chair. Andrew, it's in regards to the Auckland Future Fund. Now, there are some strict protections over the fund assets, and I just wanted to get your advice on whether there is anything else we could have a look at. For example, it was going to be categorised as a strategic asset. That obviously hasn't helped the shares previously. It's got the inclusion of key policies, provision of draft trust deed, appointment of professional independent directors, and seeking legislative protection. Andrew, from your opinion, is there anything else that we should be looking at to protect that fund?
Look, at risk of sounding unhelpful, I'm here as your independent auditor, and I can't provide you advice on those sorts of matters. Those are really matters which I think you're probably best to talk to management about, just to clarify the veracity of the advice they've received around those. So, I'm an independent auditor in this process. So unfortunately, I can't provide you with the advice on the satisfactoriness, if I put it that way, or otherwise, of those measures you've talked about. Sorry.
Okay, Andrew, thank you. And just a question to Sandra. Thank you, Andrew. Killed it. Just a question to Sandra. Even though the item is now been voted on, I wish to put my vote against the establishment of the Auckland Future Fund. Therefore, then, what process is there for me to do that, and others if they wish?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Filipaina. This was not actually expressed in part. The vote for that was either for or against adopting the long-term budget. The time to express in part was when we had the meeting on the 16th of May. So this time around, you either vote for or against the adoption of the long-term plan.
Okay, supplementary.
Procedure. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Fletcher, just supplementary. I did on the 16th voice my concerns around this, and so are you saying now the only other option, even though it got voiced at the meeting on the 16th, is to vote against the whole of the long-term plan?
That's correct, Councillor Filipaina.
Thank you.
Sandra, I wonder if you can help us procedurally, for those of us who are online with whatever bugs or ailments are keeping us at home. The Mayor went straight from questions to the vote, and I was attempting to actually speak briefly to it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Fletcher. The vote has actually now been taken, and it is part of the record.
So we're going to move